Visage is a first-person psychological horror game heavily inspired by titles like PT and Silent Hill. It takes place almost entirely inside of a suburban house, but this is not a safe or familiar space. Instead, the house acts as a shifting labyrinth, changing subtly as the player progresses. Rooms reconfigure themselves, lights flicker unpredictably, and previous safe areas become hostile. The game's core mechanic revolves around sanity. The player's mental state deteriorates, inviting increasingly terrifying hallucinations and threats. Horror comes from anticipation rather than action. Each chapter focuses on different characters' tragic backstories, touching on themes like grief, mental illness, and domestic trauma. These stories are not presented directly. Players piece them together through environmental clues and unsettling imagery. Darkwood approaches horror from a completely different angle. The game takes place in a mysterious forest that traps its inhabitants inside of a decaying, hostile world. By day, players scavenge abandoned villages, forests, and ruins for supplies. By night, they barricade themselves inside of a hideout, praying they survive until morning. The map changes subtly, enemies' behaviors are unpredictable, and the game refuses to hold the player's hand. Combat is clumsy by design, reinforcing the idea that violence is a last resort. The sound design is a major contributing factor to the fear. Creaks, whispers, and distant screams often signal danger without showing it. Narratively, Darkwood leans into ambiguity. It presents a world corrupted by something unnatural, but never fully explains it. The result is a deeply unsettling experience where fear comes not from what you see, but from what you feel. Detention is a 2D atmospheric horror game rooted in real historical trauma. Set in the 1960s in Taiwan, during the period of martial law known as the White Terror. Gameplay is minimal and deliberately restrained. There is no combat, only puzzle solving and avoidance. This design choice reinforces the feeling of powerlessness that defines the game's narrative. The environments are steeped in symbolism, using traditional Taiwanese folklore and religious imagery to reflect the characters' internal struggles. As the story unfolds, it becomes clear that the horror isn't just supernatural, it's deeply human. Detention is widely praised for its emotional weight and its ability to use horror as a lens to examine real historical suffering, making it one of the most meaningful indie horror games ever made. Heartworm is a love letter to classic survivor horror, drawing heavy inspiration from the late 90s and early 2000 games like Silent Hill and Resident Evil. It features fixed camera angles, tank-style movement, and deliberately low-fidelity visuals. But this isn't nostalgia for its own sake. The game uses these designs to create a sense of distance and unease, reminding players how vulnerable characters felt in older horror games. The story follows a young woman searching for something or someone connected to loss and grief. While details are intentionally sparse, the emotional core is clear. The environments feel empty and abandoned, and the soundtrack leans heavily on ambient noise rather than music. Heartworm excels at quiet horror, allowing silence and stillness to build tension. For fans of classic horror survival, Heartworm stands out as a modern game that understands why those older titles were effective in the first place. Withering Rooms blends gothic horror with roguelike mechanics, creating a constant shifting nightmare. The game takes place inside of a massive Victorian mansion that rearranges itself every night. Players control a young girl navigating this hostile environment, facing grotesque enemies, traps, and supernatural events. Unlike many horror games, Withering Rooms creates a robust combat and upgrade system, allowing players to experiment with different builds and strategies. What makes this game compelling is how it balances repetition with dread. Death is expected, but each run reveals new areas, lore, and possibilities. The mansion feels alive, almost malicious, as if it's currently working against the player. Thematically, Withering Room explores trauma, endurance, and identity, using its roguelike structure to mirror the feeling of being trapped in an inescapable cycle. It's a rare example of a game that successfully merges mechanical depth with genuine horror.